Hello everyone. I am Sandhya Bharti, Head of Editorial IPN News at the Indian Startup Times. And today in our interview, we are joined by Mr. Hanuman Tripathi, Managing Partner at Lead Invest. So, Mr. Hanuman is a veteran entrepreneur and fintech leader known for mentoring early stage startups and building globally recognized banking technology businesses. Yeah, Mr. Hanuman, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Sandhya. Thank you very much. And thank you to your firm, IPN News.
It's a pleasure, Mr. Hanuman. Mr. Hanuman, before we jump into the conversation, I'll take just a quick minute to introduce Indian Startup Times. We have been building the platform for almost 3 years now, and it's been a very incredible journey for us to see the kinds of responses we have received. Like over time, IST has grown into one of the trusted voice in India's startup ecosystem, the close to 6 million impressions every month uh, across our website and social channels, and a very engaged community of, I would say, 39K plus founders, investors, and operators. And now, talking about the focus, our focus has always been quality, deep insight led stories and thoughtful, curated conversations with founders, capitalists, and industry leaders, like rather than just a headline driven coverage. And also beyond content, now evolving into a more network driven platform, like one that helps connect startups with investors and enables meaningful conversations around capital, growth, and real world challenges. Yeah, with that context, we're really glad to have you here today, Mr. Hanuman. Looking forward to a great conversation.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Hanuman, talking about your journey, like you bring over 4 decades of experience across entrepreneurship, fintech, and global banking technology. Looking back at your journey from building infrasoft technologies to now mentoring and investing through Lead Invest, what experiences have most shaped your perspective as an investor and business leader today?
So, 40 years journey probably cannot be clubbed in 40 minutes or even lesser for that matter. But what you have asked has a very deep, what to say, effect in my own thought process over a period of time. So, if I just divide my work experience into three or four parts, the first part was where in my formative years I started my career with Bradmore of India Limited, Forbes, then went to SCL, and then went to a Tata company for telecom business where I grew the fastest in my age group. I was very young at that time and had opportunity to closely see icons like Mr. Ratan Tata and so on and so forth. Had an opportunity to see even Mr. Sam Petroda in CDOT. So that was my career in Nelco. And then I thought that I should probably experience entrepreneurial career or I must try an entrepreneurial journey in future. To get that background, I went to work in a homegrown company, and therefore I got an opportunity to head the local operations of a banking software company called Trilogy. So I spent about say 10, 12 years of my early life in getting these experiences which were very rich, very different, but they were all focused on attaining business objectives of the organization and taking expansion as or customer satisfaction as a focus. So I also was format in very lucky in the beginning of my career to have been able to contribute on the strategy side because my bosses gave me that opportunity to probably sit in those meetings and be able to comment on what is doable and achievable and how the products are faring, how clients are reacting, and so on and so forth. So that gave me an impression of understanding, or that gave me an experience of understanding business from a 360-degree point of view in my formative years itself. And that led to what to say the at the grassroots level, I could gather strength to build a professional entrepreneurial career. And that's where I realized that we should build Infrasoft Technologies not as a very bootstrapped, founder driven organization, but as a very professional organization which has values of Tata's and, being able to global aspirations, being able to focus on products, which was not the focus in India, software products 25 years back. It was the country was moving towards more of software services business. And we were trying to build our Infrasoft technology journey as a product company, which itself is a very divergent and a very different focus. And I'm very happy to say that the next 20 years in Infrasoft Tech, we could build a global company which had footprint at that point of time in 35 countries. I myself traveled in those many countries, worked with more than 300 banks, built a very solid organization with about 1200 senior or good quality people. Most of them were engineers and many of them engineer MBAs. Strong, say, steel cladded corporate organization which was based on ethics, governance practices, branding, customer satisfaction, and trust. And this experience, I would say, is one has to be fortunate to have gained this kind of an expertise over a period or this kind of an experience over a period of time as a founder and build a very successful company. Then when I exited in 2015-16, by that time had an opportunity. I used to be associated with NASSCOM as a member for a long time and I was working in various member councils. In that that interaction gave me a depth of understanding of how the whole industry thinks and how the whole ecosystem is changing. When I came out of Infrasoft Tech, I had an opportunity to serve on NASSCOM's governing council, and I got a position to work as a chairman of the SME council, which was to bring in smaller companies, and smaller means 5 crores to 250 crores revenue companies into our fold to give them benefit of working with NASSCOM closely. So that gave me a very different experience over next 4 years to work very closely with smaller enterprises and also come very close to the startup ecosystem in India. And I realized that by that time, having worked almost like 35, 40 years, I should now start focusing on giving back to the industry, or for that matter, use my experience to strengthen budding enterprises, aspirational enterprises to go to the next level of growth and break their glass ceilings and come out and expand their businesses rather than struggle. And that brought me close to investing into Lead Angels Fund, AMC, the parent company. And that's how I am now the managing partner with the Lead Angels Fund. And we rebranded the business as Lead Invest because we were not just the angel fund, but we were helping the entire unlisted equity investments to happen for our investors who have been associated with Lead Invest for last 10 years. Incidentally, I was myself an investor with Lead Invest for such a long time, for last 10 years, and very, very close to the organization. So I knew how the organization was working. I have been very close to the founder, Shushanto Mitra, for over 20, 25 years in the IT industry. So we knew each other very well. I understood their business very well. And therefore, I felt that it was a great place to be in terms of as an investor and as also a person who can make some difference to strategizing for the organization to grow to the next level. So this entire journey has been that of a founder who has turned into a fund manager or has turned into an investor, which is very useful because we are able to see the founder's point of view. We are able to see, or we are able to contribute to the growth of the startups who are coming to us. We are able to guide them correctly. We are able to give them access to new opportunities or marketplace or consulting, advisory, certifications, and compliances, governance. In fact, if they are interested, we are able to assist the founders to plan their next level of growth and so on and so forth, especially in B2B area where I have worked, and I have worked outside India extensively. We are able to assist our founders extremely well. That's where the point came in that, or the plan came in to probably float a fintech fund out of Lead Angels soon, and where we'll be able to use my experience extensively. But before that happens, we have already contributed to the growth of the organization in terms of strategizing its next plan, its rebranding, and going to the next level with our investors with very, very unique offering in our Cat 1 AIF, which we are running for last many, many years. So in long not in short, but in long, this is the answer of your short questions.
That's great. And how different is today's startup ecosystem compared to when you first started building businesses?
So the startup ecosystem today, in very clear terms, is different from a funding perspective. When I started Infrasoft Technology in 1995, there was no culture of venture capital. There was no culture of angel funding at all. In fact, there was no concept of sweat equity in the first place. And startups were considered a high risk uh, activity, and they were not even getting encouragement from a perspective of having to founders having to take risk or build on their build a business based on their aspiration or skills. Today that is not the case. The country per se in last let's say 1 decade has become the second or third largest startup country in the world. Startups are the core of our government's strategy in terms of growing the next generation of economy and so on and so forth. Obviously, from where I started 25, 30 years back as an entrepreneur to now, the basic difference is in the respect which startups have and the kind of funding the startups have and the kind of mentoring and support which startups have. The time we started, new generation businesses were very few. Today's 50-60% of the businesses or any business you name today is a new generation business. So while the economy is running on very large old generation businesses, which are infrastructure businesses or production houses or consumer companies, FMCG companies, industrial companies, and so on and so forth. But the entire growth, which is what is being targeted now, is in new economy companies. And that's the very, very important difference from where I came from and where the situation is today.
That's an interesting perspective, like on evolution and adaptability. So, at Lead Invest, how has your investment philosophy changed over the years in response to shift in founder mindset, capital efficiency, and market realities?
So it happens to all funds, especially in India. India is a little different than US in the way the mindset of funds and investors in the funds happen. So as our journey has been, we were earlier a plain, let's say, a plain vanilla network. In a network, members come in, they sit through various evaluations of startups and they decide where they want to invest in and they give in their contributions and then the network helps them to invest. When we became a fund, Lead Angels became a fund in 2021-22, the whole environment changed where we had to take the responsibility as an organization to see that the compliance and governance is maintained and the funds are being appropriately used by the founders to grow the businesses, and therefore our supervision or our relationship with the founders became little better. I won't use the word supervision, so I would say our relationship with the founders or our understanding of investor needs and founder needs, it became much better from the time we became an AIF. Now if you see over a period of last 5-6 years of this the aspiration of our own investors and the way the businesses have changed in the country. Founders have become far more mature. Good quality companies have very strong business models. Their requirements are far larger. The founders and the startups are requiring funds much more faster than they required earlier. In fact, they don't have time to undergo too many evaluations and so on and so forth, which was generally the model earlier. So where we used to have a lead time of 3 to 4 months, 5 months for a funding cycle to complete, today that funding cycle has to complete between 30 to 40 days or even less sometimes. So therefore, our own understanding has moved. We used to earlier fund pre-seed companies or companies at idea level. Now there are other angel funds who are focusing in that area, but Lead Angels has moved ahead and it is focusing on companies which have revenues. They have larger requirements of funds, so they have a collaborative VC already working with them. So we have opportunity of having to co-invest with VCs, and therefore we are investing in more matured companies. So this whole cycle has changed. So if we are now working with more matured companies, or we are co-investing with other VCs, we have a better due diligence, we have better governance, we have better in-depth understanding of the businesses in which we are investing in and their roadmap in terms of growth. And therefore we are able to look at shorter exit cycles or liquidity cycles, and we believe that liquidity events in such companies will happen fast, which is very, very good for our investors. So our business, you must understand, has to be focused on our investors and how we protect our investors interest, how do we give them best of the returns, how do we give them best of the organizations to invest in, while my role in the organization still remains to very carefully understand what is founders point of view, what is organization's point of view, and assist them to grow their own business. In short, both of these have to be aligned in such a manner that the organization grows fast and our investors benefit from there.
Yeah, that's very well explained, Mr. Hanuman. And you have invested across sectors including fintech, AI, SaaS, and consumer technology. So, with portfolio companies such as CoreOver, HealSpan, Okipoki, and Crediolo. So, which portfolio companies are currently exciting you the most, and what trends or opportunities do they represent in the broader startup ecosystem?
So, you see, we are presently sector agnostic. So, and at the same time, it is not right for me among our 100 odd portfolio and companies which we have invested in to just name a few. We would like to believe all are stars. They all are working hard. We have already given nearly 11 exits and 2 exits are in place. There are more than 11, more than nearly 15 next level of follow on investments which have already happened. So those companies are doing extremely well. We have exit offers from another about 12 to 15 companies. That means they have reached the level of having third level and fourth level of funding. So they are already in the process of becoming large companies over a period of time. We are very happy from a perspective of the way our portfolio has turned out to be over last 10 years. Obviously, the focus today is more on, all our investments have been on asset light models, technology led models, and we are focusing on where, let's say, there is an application which can, or there is a platform which can be used in a very large scale manner for the business opportunities that are available within India, and not just look outside India for having to grow. So there, there is tremendous application of AI based systems, drone based systems, systems which are helping logistics to improve, systems where cyber security or any kind of a surveillance or fraud prevention is running better, or lending is becoming sharper, or is becoming easier, is much more reliable, or for that matter, consumer delivery or e-commerce platforms are able to deliver something which they are able to implement a platform which can cut short costs and delivery time in a significant manner. And of course, the entire AI experience from a perspective of, let's say, fashion or any kind of a consumer usage has helped a retail investor, in a retail customer, in a big manner. And since you mentioned one of the companies which is related to insurance tech or fintech for that matter, I must also mention that there is tremendous opportunity in health tech and edutech, both platforms in or both sectors, where use of technology, use of artificial intelligence tools, of course, machine learning tools, agentic tools, they are helping the hospitals or helping the healthcare models to become stronger, and help insurance companies to settle claims faster or reduce their cost or wastages in a significant fashion. So all of these have been part of our portfolio, and we have been watching these companies growing from one stage to the other. We are trying to help them with the next level of funding or helping them better collaboration and access to new markets and so on and so forth.
Okay, so speaking about emerging opportunities, like lead investors also participated in recent investments, including Roche AI and Healspan. So, what specifically attracted you to these companies, and like how significant were these investment for lead investors?
So important thing is where a company has been able to significantly help to cut down business processes and speed of services delivery with a absolute and stronger reliance on let's say fraud prevention or wastage of any nature. That has been our focus. And some of the companies you have mentioned, they are achieving that aspect of growth in a very what to clear manner where clients have certified that they have benefited significantly using these organizations. So one of our models is we are also very close to the customers of the users, and we try to interview them from one time to the other in terms of understanding how the businesses have matured using our portfolio companies products and solutions, and we have got very raving reviews in some cases.
So, beyond fintech, which sectors do you believe are likely to produce the next wave of breakout startups in India over the next two, 3 to
So
5 years?
as I said earlier also, see, I think all consumer tech applications, especially e-commerce platform related applications, are going to do well, very very well. Health tech applications are going to do very well. Health tech startups, they have tremendous opportunity. There is opportunity in lending still coming up in a big way. There is cyber security and any kind of a fraud prevention in financial technology is very useful. And of course, defense tech is a very big area. Anything which is happening in defense, and there is a reasonably good startup using AI tools and being able to build surveillance systems or any kind of, and in fact there is a whole list of products and services which defense is looking at, and if startups are investing there or are focusing there, there's a tremendous opportunity there. In the field of education, although the sector took a bit of a beating a few years back due to some bad news appearing here and there, we still feel in edtech there is tremendous amount of opportunity available. In advertising and communication, in martech there is a tremendous opportunity available. So starting from e-commerce platform or consumer tech applications to defense, and of course a lot of it in BTEC, in the next level, lot of these companies will have a huge opportunity to work outside India in emerging markets and even in developed markets, which can just simply change their size, change their scale in a significant manner in coming times.
And you have consistently emphasized customer focus, ethics, governance, and people centric leadership throughout your entrepreneurial journey. So, in today's fast moving startup environment, how important is sustainable business building compared to aggressive growth and valuation chasing?
You see that part, it cannot be denied that companies should work for valuations, and the companies which are trying to build valuation, they are looking at scale in a big way. But over last 2 years, especially, the whole story has changed, where most investors are very keen, or funds are very keen to look at the real performance of the company in terms of being able to generate new revenues and revenues which will eventually become profitable. So the whole focus is not on cash burn alone. And if you look at sectors which can grow profitable quickly, because of the marketing burn not required to be very large, or to capture the market you need not burn too much of cash, those are the kind of companies we prefer, instead of waiting in the wings for the company to become profitable over 5-10 years and so on and so forth. That's not our focus in current times. Our focus is to look at companies which are becoming profitable over next few years very quickly, and definitely companies which are in revenue. In fact, we look for, the moment we talk to a startup, we ask them whether you have a 1 year track record today or no. If they have a track record, and if they have clients and we get to speak to the clients, that is where our interest is.
So, finally, your philosophy of give before you seek. so has remained central throughout your journey. So for young founders navigating uncertainty, competition, and funding pressures today, so what advice would you give on building not just successful startup but enduring and respected organization?
So, first of all, coming back to give before you seek, that's my personal philosophy, and I have been very driven on this philosophy right from the days when I was a very young kid, and my dad used to guide my ethos and values and how one has to grow. So we learned to be like that, that you give before you seek. And later on, working in Tata companies for a long time, I saw that happening, that the organization has to first look after its people, it has to look after its customers extremely well, and not cut corners in either of the spaces, and then expect returns to happen, profits to happen, and therefore it becomes sustainable organization over a period of time. So I'm very glad that my personal ethos, I was able to see that it actually generates very good business logic also. And I could build InfraSoft exactly on this belief. And I'm very glad to see that even in lead engines, we have been able to implement this ethos or this kind of value system to see that we first give very good service, look after our people extremely well, and it includes including our founders and not just investors, or including our team members and not just our investors. So in the entire ecosystem, if you do not cut corners when it comes to giving, you will realize your business will become sustainable and people will have better trust and better warmth with you to continue to work with you. So this is one aspect. Second aspect is what you asked for, which is hardcore business. My advice to founders has always been, and it has not changed over the years, is that you create a very sky high aspiration. First of all, very be very aspirational, and not limit your thought process as to where you want to reach, but start with a very firm grounding on the feet on the ground, believing that you have limited resources, and in those limited resources and limited time, you have to create an enterprise which is successful in terms of a ready-made, or in terms of a ready solution or platform or technology and so on and so forth, and you are able to deliver value to the clients with using that, and not just keep working on dreams or plans, but implement something which is functional, which is usable, which has got a commercial value, and very importantly, work with teams which are exceptionally superior than you yourself are, and agree to give them share of business or share of profits and so on and so forth. Therefore, treat them fairly, treat them equally, and help them to shoulder responsibilities so that you can focus on the growth of the organization. That has been my consistent advice with the founders, and I have believed that those who do that, they have been exceptionally successful. You cannot create a very unilateral organization where we just work on our own dreams and on our own aspirations. We have to take everybody's dream and aspirations together. In fact, the best founders are those who are able to align organizations' dreams and aspirations and budgets and business plans to the aspiration of their people. And they are able to together serve. And one of that aspiration has to be that you are a quality leader, you are a cheerleader for customer satisfaction. And if that is one of your objectives, then you will realize that your clients are happy with you and they stick around with you for a longer time.
Right, that's actually very appropriate for young founders. So, and that's a great note to wrap on, Mr. Hanuman. Thank you for sharing your perspectives on venture investing, fintech innovation, and the evolving startup ecosystem.
Yeah, so thank you, Sandhya. I must say one thing, that in our culture, we do not take names of our portfolio companies in public media and so on and so forth so easily. So while you did mention names and we are very proud of our companies, I didn't want to comment on just few companies and leave other companies behind, which is what I explained to you. So therefore, I have not chosen this as a marketing platform to promote our uh, portfolio names and how well they are doing. I have chosen to give you a broader perspective as you have asked for. But we are very glad to talk one is to one and explain to you how our portfolio companies are doing and let you connect with our portfolio company founders so that you can talk to them if you find value in interviewing them. Thank you very much for the opportunity of asking me to talk to you. I enjoyed talking to you. Thank you to your
Same here.
Startup Times uh, editor, and we'll be glad to connect with you later. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure, Mr. Hanuman.
Thank you very much.